Very good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Great to see you here. Welcome to this session. My name is Eduardo Portal. I see we have a few people in the room. We have Goran, Catherine, Radithia, Ryan. It's great to see you in this session. I understand you are interested in learning about the possibility of making a recording with a symphony orchestra. I'll just introduce myself very briefly. My name is Eduardo Portal. I'm a professional conductor. I have been conducting orchestras for about 15 years around the world, orchestras from the London Philharmonic Orchestra, orchestras all over Germany, all across Europe, also in America, all the way to New Zealand. And I have always very interested in recordings. I have done a good number of CD recordings, very many radio broadcasts and recordings, TV, online recordings, all sorts. I think that I have managed to help a number of conductors throughout my career, a number of composers, sorry, throughout my career. I'll just start by sharing my screen so you see some information here. Well, you can see there that's the day of my debut conducting the London Philharmonic Orchestra. This is the day that I did my first concert at the Royal Albert Hall, home to the BBC Proms. This was with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, a very exciting day. If you happen to know this venue, you will agree that it's a very exciting venue. Otherwise, I recommend you visit it one day. So I will start this presentation today by telling you a couple of experiences. My first experience is around this gentleman here. His name is Andrés Ruiz Tarazona. He's a very well-respected man in my home country, in Spain. He's very knowledgeable on music and he has held important positions. I used to visit him when I was a young man because I wanted to learn from him. He had a great knowledge on Spanish repertoire and I learned a great deal from him. In one occasion, he told me, Eduardo, I have been visited by this young composer and he has given me this score. I think you should look at it and look into the possibility of performing it. So Andres gave me this score, which was very beautifully printed, and I took it home with me. And because I trusted this gentleman here, I did look at the score and the picture. It looked like a very well-written score. It looks like something interesting. Now, as things are, and one is very busy, many other projects came on my way, and I put the score in the shelf. And as of today, the truth is that I don't know where this score is. I don't even remember the name of the composer, to be honest, which is a real shame. Okay, experience number two. Once I was towards the beginning of my conducting career, I was invited to conduct the Madrid Community Orchestra, and one of the pieces of the repertoire included one soloist. The soloist was the gentleman here. His name is Gustavo Díaz Jerez. He was the soloist for Poulenc Concerto for piano and winds, and we had a very nice week of work together. Towards the end of the week, he told me, Eduardo, I am a composer besides being a pianist, and I would like to give you a score of one of my pieces. As it happens, this piece has already been premiered, and the premiere was recorded live, so I have a CD recording to give you as well. So I thanked him, I took the score, I took the CD with me, and I got home after my week of work there in Madrid, and a few days later, I saw the score, I saw the CD, and I thought, I'm going to play this and listen to a few minutes of it. And I started to hear this music. Let's see whether this plays. Wait a second, this is not playing from the beginning. Here we go. So I listened to this music and I listened to this texture. I was looking at the score and I thought, oh my goodness, this sounds so beautiful. And I was looking at it and turning pages. I could not stop listening to it. And I desperately fell in love with this music. I liked it so much that I wrote him back and I said, Gustavo, I really enjoyed your piece. Thank you very much. Do you have any other pieces that I can listen to? So he sent me some other pieces that he had written, not that many. And because I was towards the beginning of my career, I could not do much for him at that stage. However, he kept in touch, and every time he would write a new piece, he would send it to me. If the piece was being premiered, he would send me the recording. If it was not being premiered, he would just send me a score. And he kept me updated. So he was all the time feeding my mind. And because I loved each one of the pieces that he was sending me so much, I started to have ideas. How can I help this composer whose music I like so much? I tried to program some of his pieces in some of my concerts. It didn't work out. So I had the idea of making a CD recording with all his orchestral pieces that I knew at that time. And I started to look into this possibility, and I discovered the problems that one will confront when you try to make a CD of a contemporary composer, which is that not many orchestras are interested in doing this. It's extremely expensive. There are barely any labels interested in recording this. The venues are difficult to find. All of it was a problem. So I did not really know what else I could do. So I forgot about this project for a bit. And then time went by, and a few years went on, and eventually, well, and he always kept me updated with all his new works. And eventually I discovered there were some awards for young artists, which I was still at the time, and I could apply for a very exclusive set of funds. So I suggested this composer, why don't we record all your orchestral pieces of this cycle into a double CD? It would be a double CD already. He had written quite a few pieces, and he was delighted with this idea. So I applied for those funds. The project was accepted. We received a large amount of money, a very large amount of money that we destined towards this CD recording. And the project was very successful. We made this recording with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra and on the label Signum Classics. And the CD was a real success. It's a top-class recording of 7 symphonic poems about the Canary Islands. Why do I tell you this story? Well, because if you see, the first composer of the first story did not really make me do anything for him, because I did not love the music, because I could never hear it. I just was given a score, and yes, it looked interesting, but you don't really fall in love with the music until you hear it. In the second case, he gave me a score and he gave me also a recording. And that was what made me love his music. And that was the seed that 8 years later produced this double CD recording that we both loved so much. Okay, so what's the conclusion of this? If you want to have an opportunity for your pieces to be performed, you have to make your audience love your piece. You have to let them listen to your piece. And this is going to be the door that opens the possibilities for you, the opportunities for your music to be performed. Okay, so that's why I find so that's why I find that having a recording of your piece is absolutely crucial if you think that your music deserves being performed in the concert hall. Okay, so If you are interested in making a recording with an orchestra of your piece, you'll have to know the truth. The truth is that there are big number of costs and difficulties. As I was mentioning before, it's very difficult to find an orchestra which is interested in making a recording of your music, because orchestras have their own plans, and it's going to be very challenging if you are not a very well-known composer already to find an orchestra who is interested in including in their schedule a recording of your piece. It's also going to be difficult, as it was difficult for me, to find a recording engineer or producer. And you have to know that at the time that I was planning the recording of this CD, I already had a good career. I had very many good contacts. I had been directed from the general manager of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra: speak to this producer, speak to this label, speak to this other man. And in spite of that, these people many of them were not interested in taking on the recording that I was suggesting. So this is another difficulty. Venues. If you are intending to make a studio recording, not every venue is appropriate. It's very difficult to find a suitable venue, and they are usually quite busy, so it's difficult to find a good venue. Another difficulty is the duration. Some people might think that they have to do an entire CD, so 60 minutes of music. But this is actually quite difficult. You don't always have 60 minutes of music ready to be recorded. And of course, if you have to pay for an entire CD, the costs are going to go much higher than if you record a short piece, obviously, because you need much more time with the orchestra in the venue. The product is going to be much longer than a short piece. If on top of that you want to make a video recording, you have added costs of your video production for this recording. So I'll tell you what my experience is. If you want to make a CD recording with orchestra in the general conditions, you can expect to pay about this amount, £100,000 or $120,000 easily. Okay, this is more or less the amount that we had to pay to make the recording of the works of Gustavo Díaz Jerez. And it's an amount which for many people is not easy to find. Now, having said that, through my career and all the contacts that I have developed, I have managed to establish a very clever network of people and resources that will enable you to make a recording with us for an incomparably lower amount of money. So if you follow the guidelines that I'm going to tell you, and you want to make a recording with us, your recording might be within those figures. Something depending on what it is, how many players, how long the piece, and a number of other elements. It might be somewhere between £3,000 and £15,000, and you see the equivalents there in US dollars. $3,700 to $18,000, depending on a number of factors. So it's not magic what we do. I'll explain to you what we do. All right. Now the orchestras that we work with are so far these two: either the Socrates Symphony Orchestra or a session orchestra made up with players of the BBC Philharmonic and the Halle in the UK, in England. So the first orchestra, the Socrates Symphony Orchestra, this is a high standard student orchestra. It's a student orchestra made out of players who are in their 20s mostly, and they are going to finish their studies very soon, and they're going to become professionals very soon. So the standard of playing is very high. So if you are interested to know how well they play, I'll just share with you our last recording, a short excerpt of our last recording, okay, which we finished last month. Here we go. It's just about a minute long for you to watch. Here we go.
Great experience. We work whole day with Eduardo Portal and orchestra, Socrates Orchestra. It was amazing recording, and we really make good music with all ideas which are realized. So it's incredible how orchestra sound good, and you can hear it hopefully very soon.
So that's one of the orchestras that we work with. This is the Socrates Symphony Orchestra. For you to get an idea, I think they play really well. They play very beautifully. The other orchestra that we work with is the session orchestra of the BBC Philharmonic and the Halle orchestras in England. We're going to do a project with them this month. Now, this is a professional orchestra specialized in recording sessions, okay? So they are very fast. They are professionals. They are quite suitable for projects where the orchestra is small. Now, the project that we're going to do this month is for a small orchestra, and it's also very difficult technically. So they are quite ideal for this kind of project. Both orchestras play very well, depending on what kind of project it is, and the cost of hiring them is substantially lower than hiring a general professional orchestra, just because the strategy that we follow, okay? Now, there is a recording engineer and producer that I work with regularly. They are super efficient. I have known them for many years, and they will be very happy to do any project that I ask them to do. So that's something that would be at your disposal as well, all right? The venues that we use are connected to I have contacts with all these venues since a number of years, and thanks to that, I get some reduced rates, which is also very beneficial, all right? And you would get benefit also from these reduced rates if you do the recording through us. The duration of the recording, this is a very important aspect. Now, a great advantage of doing a recording with us is that you can focus, and you should focus, on the piece or the excerpt of the piece that you are going to benefit most from. So you have to find which piece of yours is that people are going to love, which piece is going to give you the opportunities. This could be a 3-minute piece. It could be an 8-minute piece, but you don't need to rehearse your entire symphony, which is 45 minutes. You don't need to record your entire opera, which is 2 hours 15, okay? My suggestion about this is that you choose very carefully the movement, the excerpt that your audience is really going to love. These days, you know, everyone is very busy. No one is going to spend a whole hour listening to a CD. So you want to spend your efforts and spend your money recording the section, the movement that is going to give you the opportunities. Now, because I have requests from a number of different people, if we manage to combine different pieces by different composers in the same recording session, you're going to benefit from shared costs of venue hire, shared costs of orchestra hire, shared costs of recording engineers and producers. all those costs are going to be shared if we put several pieces of different composers within one recording session. This is what we are going to do now this month. In the recording that we will do, we are going to do 2 pieces by different composers in the same recording session, and they have a fantastic price because they are sharing all those costs. Okay. Also, we offer always the possibility of having video recordings of your pieces with the audio, and the rates are very competitive. Depending on what you want, you would get a fantastic rate for your video recording. All right, so that's something you might want to consider. So, these are the characteristics of the recording that I am suggesting for you. What I'm going to tell you now is that if you want your success to be your career to be a success, you will have to fight for it. I'm putting at your service all these facilities. I'm doing my bit to offer you the possibility to make a high quality recording of whatever piece you think is going to give you the opportunity of your life. And if you are willing to commit to your career, to make a success of your career, you will have to fight for your success. Now, there is, of course, there is a cost associated to making a recording, but these figures that I'm talking to you about is even if you have absolutely nothing in your bank account, there are techniques that will help you raise the funds. A while ago, we got a very interesting talk of a composer who has been involved in a number of crowdfunding projects. This is something that some of you might be interested in learning. I don't know whether you know much or not about crowdfunding. It's a fantastic way to raise funds. If you know a number of crowdfunding projects, this kind of figure, $5,000 to $10,000 or pounds, is a very achievable amount for many crowdfunding projects. So you might want to look into your savings and decide to pay the recording. You might decide to organize a crowdfunding project for this, but the amount that I'm talking to you about is absolutely achievable. It's not like the £100,000 that I had to raise, and it took me several years to do. All right. So now I would like to know a little bit about the pieces that you have in mind. So why don't you open the chat window and tell me the characteristics of your piece? The title, the movement, the duration, orchestration, difficulty level, so I get an idea of what you have in mind. Perhaps some of you have already seen this in my email, and you have perhaps typed it already before on a file. You can just copy and paste it for everyone to see. If you have not done it beforehand, you can do it now. Size of the orchestra, how many woodwinds, how many brass, how many percussion, how many strings, which other soloists or players or singers does your piece involved, how difficult it is. Is this for beginners? Is it advanced? It's medium. The duration also is something that I would be very interested in finding out, whether it's a 2-minute piece or it's a 40-minute piece. If you can type it now in the chat and share it with everyone, I will be very happy to have a look and see whether I believe that's something that I could take on as a project. All right. So perhaps some of you are already typing your information. Oh yes, you are copying a YouTube link. We are not going to open YouTube files now. I just want to know those details that I'm describing. If you are so kind, Fathel, to tell me the duration of the piece, the orchestration, the difficulty level, all those characteristics, that would be very useful to know. All right. So if you can share those with us now, I'll just wait a few moments to discover what you have in mind. while you do that, I see that we have Goran here in the room. Goran Gorbic, he is the composer whose piece we finished last month, and I would like to invite Goran to speak to you while you type all that information. Goran, if you can tell us in a couple of minutes what your experience was recording this piece, how good you find the result. I'll just enable you to start your video if you're happy to talk to us, Goran. Goran, you have to unmute. Sorry, you are muted. We cannot hear you.
Unmute.
Oh.
Now it's okay. Hello, Eduardo. Hello, everyone. It was really very nice and very professional, unbelievable, good day. Everything was on time. All staff, all crew was working very hard that day, and in one day, 10 minutes of music was very good recorded and played. So my all my recommendation is do it, and you will have a pleasure with them for sure.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you so much, Goran. That's fantastic feedback.
It's really true, and I didn't believe in all these projects because it's difficult to believe that for one day it can be done, but it was done so beautiful and so professional that I can really recommend it to everyone to do that. And Eduardo make you prepared, and all all partiture is must be ready. So it was really a nice day for everybody to play that music. Thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Goran. That's very kind of you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Very good. So we have already some information here. I just what Raditya has typed here in the chat window. Title: Teleoperation Movement 1, duration 9 minutes 25. Orchestration 3-2-2-1, 4 horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, tuba, timpani for percussion. All right. So this is a standard size orchestra, I would say, less than 10 minutes. Difficulty intermediate, a little advanced. This program narrates about a group of people who gets trapped in an unknown space and tries to teleport to different places until reaching back to their home. You even have a story behind it. That's already an interesting point, that you have a story behind it. It looks to me, before I see the score, this looks to me as absolutely doable. So we can certainly consider doing your piece, Raditya. We have another piece here by Catherine. Catherine, let me just see. I'm opening the file that you sent. Double woodwinds, some 3 clarinets, 3 oboes, 2 horns, 2 trumpets, 2 trombones, tuba, 1 percussion, no, 3 percussion, and strings. Okay, very good. And that looks absolutely fine. That's for one of the pieces, okay, which is 6 minutes 40, I believe. Okay, another piece, it's for really good students, you say. Oh, the first one is for good students or professionals. Okay, the second piece is for really good students, 5 minutes 12. The third piece is 5 minutes, and this is for double woodwind and strings. And this is a piece for students. Well, all these 3 pieces that you send, Catherine, look in the numbers absolutely doable. So that's certainly something we could consider doing. We had another piece, Fathel. I'm not sure whether you are able to type your information there in the chat. But the 2 pieces that you have shared look absolutely doable. So here we go. let me just type here one more thing in the chat, because I'm going to give you the opportunity to send me your pieces, okay? Here we have some more information by Fatzel. Let me read it. It's a 4-minute piece with an orchestration. It's based on a 3/4 waltz rhythm, but with quite a dark vibe. Okay, I wanted to create this contrast. The track is about nature dying as we humans continue to dance. Oh, how interesting. We don't know how large the orchestra is. This is also an interesting point. Maybe you could let us know, Fatel, if you can, how something like what your colleagues have shared, Raditya, or large orchestra. Well, it would be interesting to see how large the orchestra is. But we can certainly look at that if we have with choir and piano. I see. Okay, very interesting. Now what I'm going to offer you now is the possibility to have a one-to-one session with me, which is going to be a free of charge session in which I already look at your piece, I look at your score, we look much more into detail. I start to do some work individually for your piece, and we discuss the possibility of how this would work, whether it would be possible or it would be not, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type here in the chat a link. This is just a Google form, okay? You can just type there in this Google form the details of your piece, something like this. This is the Google form. I am just sharing it now. Okay, so you just type your name, your email address, some contact details, the title of your piece, instrumentation of your piece. Please do try to specify the instrumentation of your piece like you have done there in the chat window. If you are interested in making an audio or video recording, I think I will. These days are incorrect. Friday, 17th of February. I have not updated this. Now, what I'm going to suggest is to meet you individually for 15 minutes this week before Friday. Okay, Friday I'm going to be traveling, so it would be tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. So what I would suggest is that you type here where it says here Friday 17th of February, just excuse me, I have not updated this for today's session. Just type there on this box which moments you would be available tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. And if you type a good number of them, that would make my life much easier, because I have a good number of other appointments. So I'll try to find a slot in which I can see you in the next 3 days, okay? And what I want is to get a score of your piece. You send it to me via email. This here is the email address. It's the same email address that I have used to send you the email with the information for today's session. Is the one here. You send me a PDF copy of your score, so before our meeting, I can already have a look and I can do some work on it, and I can tell you my opinion on it, and I can tell you whether I think this would be a possibility. All right. So this is going to be a free session for all of you, an individual free session for all of you who register for this meeting, and hopefully we can find a slot within the next 3 days. All right. So while you fill in the form, I wanted to tell you something else, which is something very unique, which I'm going to do to help you as well. This is a bonus. All right. Now, if you remember these two experiences that I shared with you at the beginning, two different people spoke to me about a piece. One of them was this man that I trusted, and he talked to me about a different composer. The other, the second experience was another man that I also trusted, because he had been the soloist for my week conducting there in Madrid, and I thought he was a good musician, and he was a composer. I also trusted him. So what I'm going to offer you is to be the first person, myself, who promotes your work on a network of trusted conductors. Okay, so I'm going to promote your recording using the Passion for Conducting network. My main project during the COVID pandemic was to set up the Passion for Conducting network. Since we could not do any concerts, I decided to establish a group, an online group called Passion for Conducting, in which I could help other conductors around the world with the experience that I had learned. And that soon developed very nicely into the Passion for Conducting Academy. And it was so successful that I gained students from all around the world. And the Passion for Conducting Academy has now more than 200 conductors from 6 continents. And the standard of many of these conductors is very high. They conduct orchestras in many different countries. Okay, so we have people like Andres Kaljuste. He is from Estonia. He's a creative director of classical studies at the Tallinn School of Music and Ballet, and he conducts regularly orchestras, including the Helsinki Philharmonic, Lahti Sinfonia, Tampere Symphony Orchestra, Estonian National Opera, Tallinn Chamber Orchestra, Aalborg Symphony Orchestra, Aarhus Symphony Orchestra, and Odense Symphony Orchestra. And he would receive an email from me promoting your piece. Nicolas Agulló, an Argentinian conductor based in Paris, who conducts regularly orchestras like the Rhine National Opera, Bretagne Symphony Orchestra, Lille National Orchestra, Ensemble Antenne Contemporain in France, Lucerne Festival Academy Orchestra in Switzerland, Freiburg Kammerphilharmonie, Savaria Symphony Orchestra, Teatro Colón in Argentina, etc. And he would also receive an email from me promoting your work. Jerry Ho, who just did his debut conducting the New York Philharmonic, he's associate conductor of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra and works regularly with many orchestras, particularly in the United States, Dallas Symphony Orchestra, Houston Symphony, St. Louis Symphony, Orchestra St. Luke's, BBC Scottish in the UK, National Arts Center Orchestra, Teatro Colón, Rochester Philharmonic, San Antonio Symphony, and many others. And he would also receive an email from me promoting your piece. Lydia Kainer, music director of the Chamber Orchestra of Edmonton and the River City Chamber Orchestra. She is music director of 2 different orchestras. Recently, she made her debut conducting the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, a fantastic orchestra, in which, by the way, she was conducting contemporary work. She would also receive an email from me promoting your piece. Maurice, assistant conductor of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra and the Aspen Music Festival. He's a very talented young conductor, conducting with more and more orchestras, mainly in the United States, including the Amarillo Orchestra and many others. So he would also receive an email from me promoting your work. Thaddeus Huang, a very talented Australian conductor, former assistant conductor of the West Australian Symphony Orchestra, and music director of the Frankston Symphony Orchestra and Australian New Goldberg Orchestra. He would also receive an email from me promoting your work. And many others. Stefano Torboli, an Italian conductor, he's currently conducting Macbeth in an opera house in Asia. Etienne Abelin, music director and principal conductor of the Empire State Youth Orchestra, an incredible musician. Cathal Garvey, conducting teacher at the Royal Academy of Music in London and principal conductor of the Winchester Symphony Orchestra. Stephanie Schmidt, who runs an orchestra of women in Germany, set up by herself. Libby Lebel, music director of the Texas Medical Center Orchestra, an incredibly active woman who received the American Prize in 2021, and she might be the winner again in 2023, as she has been shortlisted for the American Prize again. Marco Giudici, music director of the Salford Symphony Orchestra, and the list is never-ending. Loads of conductors who are part of the Passion for Conducting network. They would all receive an email from me promoting your work. So if you have any questions, if there is anything that is unclear or that you would like to know, please feel free to open your microphones. Now is the right moment.
Hi, thank you for doing this. My name is Catherine, and I just wanted to ask you a question about percussion. So my piece involves using a celesta, and it has parts for xylophone and glockenspiel as well. I know that xylophone and glockenspiel are fairly standard, but as far as a celesta, how available is that, and how much do you think it would add to the overall cost?
Oh, Celesta is absolutely no problem. We are going to use a Celesta this month. So, as a matter of fact, I'm in touch with the principal percussionist of the BBC Philharmonic, who provides all the instruments for us, and he was asking me, do you need a 4-octave or a 5-octave Celesta? So he has all the instruments that you will need. I don't know if you have something, but Celesta is certainly not a problem. I don't think it will add a terrible amount of money. Certainly has not added a large amount of money for the project that we are doing now this month. So that's not a problem at all, Catherine. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anyone else? This is your chance. We have one question here.
Oh, yeah. So about just the recording, how big is the string section?
Well, the string section size will depend on your piece, because certainly we can book a larger number or a smaller number depending on the writing of the piece. So in this last recording that we finished last month, the one that you've seen in the video, there we had 6 first violins, 5 seconds, 4 violas, 3 cellos, 2 basses. On the recording that we're going to do now this month, we have a smaller string section, because the orchestra, we have single woodwinds, 1 oboe, 1, and there we have the necessity only to do it with 4 first violins. Other pieces that involve a larger orchestra will require 8 first violins, so everything goes in proportion, and that will be arranged according to the needs of your piece. Okay, so what do you have in mind? How do I say your name correctly?
Yeah, you said my name correctly before, Raditya.
Yeah, Raditya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
do you have
perfect.
in mind? How large is your score?
I was thinking about between like 16, 14. So, and maybe going to like 10 first violins. So it's kind of like a medium size, I would say. A little bit large, but not too large.
Okay, what
That
I
makes
would
sense?
suggest, Raditya, is that you send me your score. What happens in a studio recording is that is not a concert performance. So the numbers are a bit different, okay?
Oh,
And
yeah.
you think that in a studio, you have a microphone right next to the instrument. You are not just recording from the hall where the whole sound blends together. No, in the studio, you have a microphone next to the instrument. So you don't need generally the same size of instruments as you need for a radio broadcast or for a general performance. Okay, so this is a big advantage, that in a piece that you would generally do with, I don't know, 14 first violins, perhaps you will do well having 10 or 8 in a recording session, because the microphones will make up for the balance issue. So, and that's very beneficial because the overall cost comes down because you need fewer players.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So in
Yeah,
any,
makes
what
sense.
is very important, what would be the best option would be that you send me your score so I can have a look, and I will tell you what I think would be best. In case of doubt, I can also discuss it with the producer, the recording producer, who is also very experienced and might be able to guide a little bit about this. But in this recording that we are doing now this month, we have a fairly small amount of strings and a fairly large amount of percussion, and it's going to be no problem because we can balance it all with the microphones. Okay.
Yeah.
In the studio.
Yeah. All good. Thank you.
Very good. No problem. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? Nothing else? Well, in that case, I hope you have managed to fill in the form. I hope you have told me which availability you would have in the following 3 days. And before I go away, we can arrange our one-to-one session, and I can start to look at your piece and give you an idea about whether this is something that we could take on or not. All right. Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining this session. I hope you found this useful. I am always very excited to receive new pieces for recordings. I'm always very excited to discover what composers have in mind, and I look forward to receiving your pieces. All the best and have a good evening. Bye-bye.